Hey, waiting for Bassie to come on. How are you? Hello, all. No requests. Okay. Hey, Bassie. Okay, here you are. Except, oh my gosh, this is.
Hi,
Hey, Rivkie!
how are you? We're here. This happened. Oh
Oh
my
my
gosh.
gosh, this is crazy. I've never been on a live with someone
Me neither.
else.
Well, here we go. Let's do this.
Hey, Sarah. Hey, Shane Rachel. Hey, Goldie.
Hello. Hello, everybody. Good luck.
Good stuff.
So, so where do we begin?
At first, I have
I
to
guess.
thank you, Rivkie, for inviting me. So
Of course, thanks for accepting the invitation.
okay.
Anyway, so let's see. Let's going back several weeks. We spent Shabbos together, you and me, and I was struck by how different the Shabbos experience was for me personally. Like spending it with another family in so many different ways. Okay, like, and then I'll ask you like what it was like for you. But for me, just like in two specific ways that I could think of is number one, just having other company, adult company, not that's peers, adults, and that's just so much bigger than I realized, like so much more important than I realized. And then second of all, um, the kids, I mean, obviously this depends because sometimes different families, different kids don't connect well. At Baruch Hashem, our kids connected really well. And so then what happens is the kids are just so well entertained with each other, and it just created a much more pleasant Shabbos experience for me. And it just made me think about how, in a way, like, obviously, when we talk about the concept of the village, I think it could, in a way, also be triggering for people because I'm sure that, like, years back, the village was, of course, it had dysfunction too. There was dysfunction. However, there are certain qualities of it that were very special and very supportive. And so we don't have, many of us don't have those qualities now. We don't have those qualities in our life. So spending Shabbos together and just having that experience of being in close connection with other people, similar values, kids who get along with each other, that was like a little like window into like, wait, like this is what support and village probably feels like. So that's my experience, and I'd love to hear what it was like for you.
Yeah, so it was very similar. I just want to say, because I don't know who's going to be jumping on and who's not, but me and Rifki both live in a place where up until like 8 weeks ago, there was no Eruv. And even now, the Eruv, even if we do choose to keep it, it can be controversial to some people. So it's not like, oh, what are you guys talking about? Like, why at like 38 years old are you realizing, like, no, there was no option for that. So I just want to put that out there. It was either sleeping over
Right.
by someone or not. Like you hosted young couples or people that were single. And so yeah, what Rifki was saying, first of all, is I was invited to Rifki. So Rifki was the hostess. And what was extra for me was that we had our own space. Rifki has a gorgeous Airbnb downstairs. So that's just also a plug. Anyone who needs the Airbnb, message Rifki.
Thank you.
Beds, 2 bathrooms, newly redone. But that added to the beauty of being able to appreciate each other. Her kids didn't have to be displaced. My kids weren't so displaced. We weren't sharing bathrooms. It wasn't like my kids were up early, her kids were still sleeping. So I'm like, Shah, everyone be quiet. It was just like they were upstairs, we were downstairs, and when everybody was ready, it was really beautiful. If anyone needed space, her kids could go upstairs, we could go downstairs. So that was a huge perk, which I know that I'm very grateful that's how we were able to come. And many people don't even have that as an option.
Right.
But it was unbelievable to see how there really can be like a family and children that really could get along the way we did. And that was like, all you need is a few of those and you're good for life.
Yeah.
And I do think that they're like rose amongst the thorns. I don't think that it's so easy to necessarily find that type of friendship, that type of connection on your values and how you raise your children, and in just acceptance, because we don't need to be the same and we're not exactly the same. But there was just this like, you do you, like Rivkie told me before I came, I want you to know you should be so comfortable. Just that, like, I really was. If my kids did something, I was comfortable. If we wanted to bring Diet Coke because that's what my husband drinks, we brought it instead of like not bringing it and secretly being aggravated the whole Shabbos that he wasn't. You know what I mean? Like silly things. But it was like also that there was just no judgment, and I thought that that was beautiful. So we
Yeah.
love coming to Rivkie's house.
My kids are asking, when are you coming again? Every week. Could Bassie come again?
I know it was really special.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it was really awesome. You know, but it's so interesting because I think sometimes when we don't, you see, when we don't have the experience of something, when we've never experienced something or we don't have the experience of something, sometimes we don't even know that we're missing something. We don't even realize we're missing something. I'll give an example. Like I was speaking to a client last week and we're going through like different things that are coming up for her in terms of parenting. And when it came to like, it's like she felt like she knows so much about how she wants to parent, but it's just so hard sometimes. What we ended up like getting to was this, like in her situation, she has basically almost zero support. And sometimes it's like we just adapt to our life. We adapt to the way things are. We assume this is the way it is. We have no frame of reference for anything else. And so kind of we just like, we assume, so we adapt. But we don't realize like how much we're missing. And like the purpose of sharing this isn't to like moan and groan and kvetch. It's to start to become aware and conscious. And then as we become aware and conscious, in the beginning, it could actually be very painful. It could be very painful and very hard. Like to look around and realize how alone we may be. Many of us, some people are more alone than others. And regardless, whatever is true for each person is what's real for them, you know? But, you know, so we want to become aware and then we can start to take steps to create our own village. Like slowly but surely we can do that. It's possible. It's not easy, but it's possible. So what we came to this awareness that she's like, you know, you can know everything. You can know how you want to parent. You can, you know, feel like you should be able to do it all. And then you don't realize like how that lack of support can be contributing to just not having the physical energy to parent in the way you want to parent, to live in the way you want to live. Like we don't even realize sometimes what an impact it has on us.
And also emotionally, you said only physically,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, that too.
things are physical. And when you say support, do you mean like when I think of support, I think of someone who is like, and maybe everyone has a different version of what support looks like.
Probably, yeah.
Because like,
But let me, yeah.
I think that like every other person and every person in your show, everyone's great at like the fetching part and the like sarcastic part. But is that really support? Is that what you mean when you're saying support?
That's not what I'm talking about. For me, like,
clarify. Like, what do you mean?
I think that for me, that's not what I'm talking about. Yeah, I guess like you said, like support could look different for everyone. If I'm going to talk about myself, what would support? I don't know. I've just been thinking a lot about it, how, well, there's support on the practical level. Like just let's say that years ago, when, again, I'm not saying that everything was glorious years ago. What we're doing is we're going back to years ago and we're seeing what was special then. What is something that we could use now? What are some of the qualities of, let's say, the shtetl, the village, that we could try to recreate in some way, shape, or form? It doesn't have to look exactly the same. But let's just say that even, let's say, after a mother gave birth years ago, the vast majority of her friends who were mothers and women relatives were all home. And this is not my place to say we shouldn't be working. It's not what I'm saying. But a mother had the support of other women in her community who were bringing over food, it was like just part of the culture, bringing over food, having her children over to play as she's recovering, so on and so forth. And also just the fact like people lived so close together. And it's kind of like I described in like a reel that I made a few weeks ago, how like when I was in a bungalow colony, like when you're in a bungalow colony, it's a little bit of a feeling of a shtetl for the good and for the bad. But, and that feeling of like everybody's close together. So you kind of have this sense like we're all putting our kids to get bed together. Like we're doing this thing together called putting children to sleep. We're doing this thing together called serving our children lunch. And somehow like I feel like when you know that you're doing something that someone else is also doing, you're doing it, so to speak, together, although you're not in the same house. There's just something about it that gives you like a sense of solidarity maybe, and connection, and even a sense of purpose. Like I felt more purposeful. I felt more like there was so much more meaning to what I was doing when I felt like, I know my sister-in-law is putting her kids to sleep at the same time. We're both doing this. It just made it feel more meaningful. So I think that those are some of the qualities that I think of. Like I think of just that togetherness, that sense of, and I think in Western society especially, I guess, or maybe in other places too, but we're kind of all in our like little box. We forget that every other mother is also going through what we're going through. We forget somehow there's something that we become very isolated in our house. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So for me, it's like this like mindset of togetherness, but there's so much more we can talk about. What about you? What do you think about?
When it comes to like community,
Mm-hmm.
it's scary for me when I think about community, because I think about like my past, and like it still always comes up. But I think about when I wasn't good at setting boundaries and I was that nice neighbor who acted community. So I was always getting everyone kids from the bus. And then when something happened, like I was always the first call, and I feel like I didn't really get it back, but it was also partially because I couldn't take. So I was giving. I wasn't being able to take. And so then I was like, never mind. I never want to know anyone else in my life. So like now that I'm able to listen to my truer self and think like, what can I give? It's not as scary, but it would be so nice to, you're running late from an appointment and you're not like bending your back over to like ask for this favor. That would be so nice.
Yes.
Or like you're giving birth and who's coming to babysit all your other kids? It's like thinking about it is a nightmare. You need to hire a girl, you need it. And like maybe that's what we need to do, but maybe it could look a little different. I don't know. But it is something that comes to mind. Like, it works out well when you have a single sibling that's living here, or when you have a parent that's not working, like a mother or a mother-in-law, but that's not really how it is. So
It's not always the case, right?
that would be nice to figure out. Like, I guess what comes down to me is for boundaries. Like, I don't want to feel taken advantage of.
Right. Like when you think of it at first, you're thinking from the other perspective, like giving the support. And that could be scary if you are someone who, so to speak, had like struggled with over giving. I mean, like I did also. Like I think many of us, that's a big theme. We
Yeah.
struggled that we gave too much. Not too much, but I mean, say like we may have given without including ourselves in the equation.
Like I know someone that recently, I'm friendly with them, and their husband was away for Shabbos. And I started to have this like guilt creep on. I should invite them for the meal. I should invite them for a meal. If I don't invite them for Friday night, I just invite them for Shabbos day. And really, it just didn't work this week. And I could have figured it out. I could have made it work. I could have ignored my husband and my kids. And I could have been like, well, what's she going to think? I'm her friend. I'm her neighbor. And I didn't. And I also didn't say anything. I wasn't like, by the way, I was going to invite you, but I was just like, I'm not, it's okay. I'm still a good friend. I'm still a kind person. I checked. And then after our meal, we went to visit them. We're like, oh, we just wanted to come check up on you. And she was like, how did you know I needed someone to come this second? I'm
Wow.
finding more and more when it comes from our heart. And I guess that is a part of a village. A village doesn't mean, like going back to boundaries, a village doesn't mean necessarily I'm taking full ownership of you. But like the thought that we were thoughtful, and since it was coming from my heart, how did Hashem make it the perfect time? Like she had three kids that were tantruming and she was losing it, and she's like, oh my goodness, could you hold one of the kids? And I was like, sure. And we hung out and we schmoozed and we broke up their meal, and it was so nice, and it worked perfect, and it worked perfect for me. um so maybe a village, maybe we could even just start with being a village of like, by really listening to our inner self. Like, are we giving because we really, really want, or are we giving because what they're going to say? Maybe if when we give from our real heart, just one little bit, that would create, like, that was so beyond thoughtful and kind. And then someone else will do a small, like, yeah, I guess it doesn't need to be big.
I love what you're saying. I actually just like minutes before we posted, the reason I was running late because I wanted to post something. And so like, I think it comes to parenting also, like the exact same thing. Sometimes this is what I wrote. Like I often find myself saying yes. I'm saying yes, but my whole body is actually saying no. Whatever it is, my kid asked me to do something. I'm not talking about the basics that we must do, like the must. I'm talking about the extras. And, you know, my child might ask me to do something and I'm saying yes because I want to avoid, them feeling disappointed in me, or I want to avoid attention, whatever it is. But my whole energy is saying no. And I'm thinking that I'm giving. I'm thinking this is a connecting experience. And I'm starting to wonder, like, is that actually connecting? Because our kids sense our energy more than what we say or do.
My daughter said to me the other day, I know your moods, Ma, when I look at your face.
They know. They're
They,
smart, you
they know.
know.
Listen, I still know what my grandmother is going to answer me when I tell her something. And we have the same grandmother, so you might also, one of them, but like, yeah, no, the same way we know that they're like, yeah, but it's crazy to think how at such a young age they know.
Well, actually, I've learned that the younger children are, actually the more in tune they are with our energy. And the truth is they're always in tune, but as they get older, different things, just like we all become a little disconnected from our body, our kids also, like life happens and they become a little more disconnected. So they're not as maybe consciously aware of our energy, but actually the younger they are, the more aware they are. A baby could sense, even a baby. So what that means to me is like for me right now, it's about starting to like just slow down a little bit, like slowing down and asking myself, wait, what's happening inside of me? Am I feeling no inside of my body? And it doesn't necessarily mean now I need to turn around and be like, no. It doesn't have to look like that. It could look compassionate. It could look like
It could
finding a
also
way to
look,
give what?
it could also look honest, like they ask you to play a game right now, and just we're not. But like we could also say why, or sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, and it could also even look like thinking of a different way that I can be supportive, that, if they want me to read a book to them, let's say, but I'm just not in that space to read a book, that doesn't mean maybe I am in a space to have them sit next to me while they read the book to themselves. Doesn't mean they're going to accept the offer, but, I can offer and
Right.
I can be authentic. And like, so I think it's the same thing here. Like when we're talking about village and support, it doesn't mean like it's so easy to start to feel like a sense of guilt. Like, oh, I'm not giving enough. I should be doing more for others. Sometimes it could be like, I have a friend who, Baruch Hashem, like we're so comfortable being very authentic, deeply authentic. And I mean, I guess that's what friendship really is. But like, there was something that I thought might be bothering her, but it was like a sensitive topic. And so here I am, like agonizing. I'm like, I really want her to know that I care. So like, maybe I should ask, like, how are things going with this and this thing, And instead, and then I'm like, but you can't ask about private stuff, right? Like, you don't want to be intrusive. So there I am. I'm like holding back on sharing my care, like I care, and I'm holding back on sharing that. And then it dawned on me. I was like, why don't I just share that I care that I care that I know you're going through something and I care about it. I just want you to know that. And this is not a bid for you to tell me what is going on. It's not a bid for you to update me. I'm okay. You know, I'm here. I just want you to know that this is what was going through my mind. I didn't want to be intrusive, but I didn't want to not share that I'm thinking about you.
That's so
So
nice.
that could also be something like, you know,
Right, right.
small little tiny way of bringing support and village is just to share when we're thinking about someone or that we care about whatever it is that is going on for them.
And I think there's so much when it comes to this of like trust and listening to your body. Because if it's coming from a really genuine place, then number one, share it. And for the person receiving it, I feel like people can also start being okay with truly receiving it. There's no badge you get for not receiving. There's no like, wow, I'm a martyr. I don't take. 1 second. Like so much of that can you can message me something, and if I'm not a receiver and if I'm like, I'm okay, don't think about me, then that's blocking also the village from creating.
Yeah.
So there's so much
Yeah.
like where you could get angry at me that I thought about you, or you could be like, oh, she was passive aggressive because she just wrote she was thinking about you. But that's not true. And that's because on the inside of the receiver, they're like uncomfortable for whatever comes up with them.
Yeah.
So like that's also like I feel like we could really like just bring light on, and also it could go into a whole conversation about being a receiver and kind of breaking this like generational like martyrism badge. Like
It's like over. It's over.
it's over. It's
We're
over.
done.
It's
We're
over.
done. There was enough. How many thousands of years? It's
Yeah.
enough.
It's
It's
over.
not time. It's a new era. It's a, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like, I think this reminds me of like when you and I worked together, and this is like totally such a credit to you, but we worked together, we had a session together, and we were talking about I needed to get better cleaning help. I needed to get solid cleaning help for many reasons. And we discussed all these different blocks that were coming up for me. See, all along for the last few years, I always thought like, I can't get cleaning help because it's so impossible in my community. It's impossible to find cleaning help. It's so hard. It's so hard. And yes, that's true. But after we talked, I realized like energetically, I wasn't ready to receive the help I needed. And we worked through that. And within literally a few days, I told you this, but within a few days, I remembered the name of a cleaning lady that like I had heard a while back. I reached out to her again. She is a gem. She's everything I need in a cleaning lady, everything that I personally need. And I just could see how clearly it's like, yeah, maybe it's hard to get cleaning help here in the community, but maybe it was inside me that I was blocking. You know, I had fears or judgments all around this, and I kind of like
Also, Rivki,
blocked
that
that.
like these blocks and things that happen also block our creativity. Like
Yeah, that
it
too.
wasn't a miracle. Someone didn't knock on your door and say, honey, here's Eliyahu Hanavi. No. You had
Right.
a phone number in your contacts this whole
Yeah,
time.
that's so true, by the way.
Like I'm noticing also the more that I'm able to, especially in like the somatics that we've learned, the more I'm able to like let go or release the judgments, all of a sudden I always used to say I'm so not creative in that sense. I'm not creative. And then like recently I'm like, that was pretty creative. Like that was pretty out there what I thought of. Like why all of a sudden?
Because,
Like
yeah, yeah,
and
totally. Because go ahead.
everybody knows Rivkie's a parenting coach. She's amazing. She has a journey from where she went from a harsh parenting coach to the most nurturing, loving,
Not a
beautiful,
harsh parenting coach.
harsh,
Harsh parents.
more harsh parenting technique
Yeah.
to go sell yourself.
Oh yeah. I never would have believed that it was possible, knowing who I thought I was 5, 6, 7 years ago. I never knew that who I am now was even a possibility for me. And of course, we're all on a journey, and that there's no, you don't reach. I haven't reached, and none of us reach. But like, I just, yeah, thank God. I'm just, it's wonderful. But you were saying something about creative. You know, creativity, I think the reason that a lot of us say like, oh, I'm not creative, is because like we're not like artistic per se. We don't know how to like compose music or something like that. But creativity is not something, that's one way of being creative. Creativity is part of being human. It's part of being a person, is that we have creativity within us, and for everyone it shows up in different ways. You
Right.
know?
Right.
Oh, do you see what Coach Maisha's saying? You
I so
even created the idea that I'm not creative. That is creative.
excited.
Totally. Oh my gosh. So yeah, I mean, like, I want to try to think of like what can we like, how can we like turn this into like a takeaway from, unless there's something more you want to contribute before we like wrap it up. Although I could keep talking to you for like, hours, but
I know, right?
we know that already. But
Right.
okay, we'll take that off the camera.
Is there anything else? No, I would. You want to wrap up first, or I should say something and you'll wrap up?
Sure. Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. So I would wrap up with saying that I think it's very important for people to um, look deep into themselves and see, why is it difficult to be a receiver? And we don't mean a receiver of someone saying, I'll watch all your 8 kids and go on vacation for 3 days. I mean small gestures of receiving. Someone's in the store and they ask you if you need something. If you really need something, say, yes, I need something. They didn't need to ask you. No one said, please text so and so. Or if they send you something because they're thinking of you, like, think what's coming up for you that it's uncomfortable for me to receive. Because when you're able to receive, then the wheel could continue going around and around. Like, just one little example, when Shifra and Pua in our community work so hard to create breakfasts. When your friend reaches out to you and says, can I sign up for you to receive Shifra and Pua? And you say, no, it's okay, I don't need it. 1 second. You don't need it because you have a mother who came to you for 2 weeks and is generously making you breakfast and you don't want to take away from other people? Or you don't need it because something's coming up for you that you feel needy, you feel nebach, you feel like, I don't need it. Like, what's coming up for you there? And then I want to take even a further step. When you do get it, and then there is 1 or 2 breakfasts that aren't so nice, is that what we need to focus on? Or are we focusing on the thought that, wow, I live in a community where women dedicate their mornings to drive and cook and prepare, and I was thought of. Like,
Yeah.
it's in a small sense and it's in a global sense. So I just want to end off with about being able to receive gracefully. We're all women. We're supposed to be graceful. Yes, we're supposed to also do our best, but there's a time and place to receive, and just to think into like, what comes up for me that makes it uncomfortable to receive.
Yeah. And I like this like streak of like passion about one particular thing. And I'll add to what you said, like that if we're finding that we're struggling to receive gracefully, or if that grace is coming difficult to us, it doesn't mean that like everything that, all those negative traits that we think like they're bad, they're not bad. They're there for a reason. And it doesn't mean something bad about us. So if I am struggling to receive gracefully, I would want to like slow that down also and see what is there something here that's uncomfortable, or is there, just to be more compassionate to that particular part of myself, to the part of myself that is having a hard time, that I'm noticing that I'm not receiving so gracefully. I'm feeling annoyed that the breakfast, well, actually I had that experience myself. First of all, I used to cook for the chef friend when I loved it. It was so nice to do it.
I did
And
not
then
know.
I also received it, and my last breakfast was a fluke, and it was really bad. It was really a fluke. Like, we don't know why it happened. And I remember actually being very disappointed. And I look back at that, and I feel like we help ourselves grow only through compassion. So looking back at myself and recognizing, like, gosh, I was really looking forward to that. And I really was hoping to have a good breakfast. And, it didn't work out, but just kind of to bring compassion into that as well. For
Yeah, no,
me,
right. And
yeah,
compassion is huge, and thank you for adding that, because sometimes I like will get on my rant and then forget that. So thanks for adding that in. That, like, yes, this does exactly what Rivkie said. It doesn't mean bad. It just means slowing down and thinking and being compassionate, exactly like what you said, to that uncomfortable. things in our life could have formed this, that happened to us, that we were just by standards of, like, there's no blame, there's no, it's not bad. Exactly. So thanks for
Yeah.
adding your touch there.
Yeah, and like a takeaway for me, I think that, you know, I'll say this. I think that opening this conversation about village and support can actually, in the beginning, could be really, really painful. And so first and foremost, like, I want to take a moment, like, just to hold space for that, to acknowledge, to name it, that if this is bringing up pain inside of you, like, that's so understandable and it's normal, and to encourage you and invite you to make space for that. I'm talking to, like, whoever's listening, and to myself. But and sometimes the first part of our stepping into finding our village is grieving what we don't yet have, and taking time to feel the full, processing the full feeling, let it feel our body. And that looks different for everyone. But sometimes I feel like we rush into problem solving because we skip, in any area of our life, because we skip the part in the middle where there's something that's hurting in our life or in our heart right now. And although that feels better technically, in the long run, I don't know if it serves us so well, you know? So in the process of opening ourselves up to the possibility that we don't yet have the support we need, or that we want to create more support in our lives, find more support, find our village, that if the pain arises and it's uncomfortable, that to allow for it, maybe, you know, if it's possible, if it's possible. Anyways, I wanted, before we finish off, Bassie, I know you have an offer that is, like, available now. So would you like to share that with whoever's on?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
And also thank you again, Rivkie, for bringing that part up, because when you think about a village, I guess there's a lot of people or ideas that sometimes you need to, like, mourn, that are not in place.
Yeah.
So I am a life coach, and for the month of January, I have a slot. I have a slot and a half. We'll make it 2 slots for in honor of the life. Um,
Awesome.
Left for you to be able to experience what it looks like to um, start on a journey together that will give you a transformation in things that you are looking to unblock. And I really stand behind women to reclaim their worthiness and their trust within themselves, and their creativity. And when people ask me, like, oh, you're a life coach, like, so what exactly do you specify in this? Because this answers all of the questions in your life, in your relationship, in your family, in your work. It gives you the courage to then go and
Yeah.
be creative and go for, look, now you have the courage to go to a parenting coach. Now you have the courage to, it will, when you are able to love yourself and trust yourself and know your self-worth, then that just flows over into everything in your life. So if you would like to claim these last 2 slots, then reach out to me.
Yeah, and as someone who coached with you, I testify that, you know, you were awesome, and I loved it. And I also have an offer. I am a parent, educator, and coach, specifically passionate about gentle, respectful, and conscious parenting, and specifically passionate about, more recently, including the mother in the picture, including our well-being. And so sometimes coaching with me could also look like life coaching, because we may not be talking about parenting, we may just be talking about you. And my offer, I also have an offer going until the end of January as well. And this is, I call it Lighter and Brighter. And it's about bringing a sense of lightness and brightness into our lives. Like we said before about support, like sometimes we don't even realize what we don't have. And sometimes in this case, so in a similar way, sometimes we don't even realize that our lives feel heavy. And sometimes the only way we start to we notice the heaviness and we can start to work at it is to start to like alleviate some of the heaviness a little bit, and then we start to notice what's still there, and we can work with it. We can start to, take step by step to bring joy and lightness into our lives. So I had 10 slots available, and now there are only 4 left, 9 days left to grab one of those 4 slots. I'm so excited.
That I also had the experience of not only getting tips from Rivkie as a cousin, but also having a session or two with her. And Lighter and Brighter literally explains exactly what she does. Because
Thanks.
so many times we have these like ideas, and when you're able to get you physically feel lighter, and then your parenting is brighter. So
Yeah, exactly. Wow. Bassie, this was like way fun.
so fun.
Totally have to do this again.
That
Anyway, so fun, and it'll save to my page. I guess I'll figure out how to share it to you. Like, we'll figure this out. This is new,
amazing.
and thanks so much for being here. It was
Okay.
so fun, and thank you everybody else for following and joining along.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Rivkie.
Okay, take
Okay,
care.
bye bye.